Get warped.
All right, my alibi is now set. I was 38 on a computer web with Benji. Let's hear it.
All right. Welcome to a special, well, not really special, but a event that I'm going to be doing, hopefully for maybe once or twice a month, but something that I've been really obsessed with, which is the unknown, and currently calling this the Get Warped podcast. It's all things weird, warped, and out there in this world, in other dimensions. And me, myself, I am always been more of a skeptic, a questionable, being of sorts, knowing a lot of people growing up also around certain people and regions and experiences that aliens, witches, unknowns, cryptids, all these things have been a kind of a part of my life for a long time. No, I've not been abducted by aliens. No, I've not seen a ghost yet. Always wanted to, but I think I found a couple folks, including the gentleman I hopefully will be doing more with these, an expert also born and raised in Bigfoot country. Kai Woda is with me here. How you doing there, Kai?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I was actually, I guess technically, I was born in Corvallis, Oregon, which is
Oh,
Bigfoot country.
still
But
is. Yes, yes.
yeah, I grew up in
Yeah.
Eureka. It was actually my father who was a Forest Service soil scientist who worked in the Siskiyous, which is like prime Bigfoot territory. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, first of all, how have you ever met Bigfoot or seen Bigfoot is the first question. I guess
Uh,
everyone has always will ask about Bigfoot.
I have
Uh,
never met a Bigfoot. It's really interesting though. As a kid, um, first you learn about probably the Easter Bunny, right? You can wave that one off, but you still believe in leprechauns. Then you wave off the leprechauns and the Easter Bunny, but you still believe in a tooth fairy, and you still believe in Santa Claus. And then the next thing you know, you kind of figure that out and figure those out, right? The next thing you got is ghosts. You write off right away because that's the first thing your parents say. There's no such thing, right? So you don't believe in ghosts right off the bat, or at least you try not to. And then the next thing is, throughout life, you start to question God, right? Is there a God? And then you go through your atheist period, and then maybe you have a spiritual awakening, and then you believe into a deity again, right? But
yeah.
the one thing, either you believe in Bigfoot or you don't. And
Mm.
for me, it was one of those things where I had already figured out the first few, right? The Easter Bunny and so on and so forth. And I'll never forget one time I was in a old greasy spoon cafe in Willow Creek, which is like, kind of known as Bigfoot territory. And there was these two truckers that were sitting on the bar, and they were looking like, rough truckers look, and they were talking about both of their Bigfoot sightings they had to each other. And I was eavesdropping on them. And it wasn't like, they were talking about something that was fake. They were talking about something that changed their views and minds. And so it's really an interesting thing where you have like this creature that, you can have people on whatever political background, they can believe in it. Whatever, they're a scientist or whatever. If they see it, they believe in it. If you don't see one, you don't really believe in it. You want to believe in it, right? Everyone wants to believe in other things, but and for me, when I first started getting into it, I got into the personality of hoaxers, which I thought was such a fascinating thing until I read a book from a Sasquatch researcher named John Green. And I always say Sasquatch because he's Canadian, and that's what they call it up there. They call it
Mm.
Bigfoot in America, Sasquatch in Canada. And he was saying it's more interesting that there should be a study on how it would be impossible to have so many people with the characteristics of a hoaxer, for how many tracks are found. Like that would be bananas just to think about, because when the first Bigfoot tracks started popping up in the late 50s, people were going out there with guns to look for it. So pretty ballsy for someone to make fake tracks and then call in work sick, convince his buddies to go look around for something with a gun, and then not tell anybody. You know what I mean? So that's pretty wild. So the personality of the hoaxers really got me into it, and I thought, oh, that's so interesting. And then I went to a Bigfoot conference in I think it was 2000, and I met a few people who'd never believed in Bigfoot, but then they had a sighting, and it blew their mind, and they had to meet other people who saw one because they did not believe in it before they saw it, but they knew what they saw, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, as they always say, the truth is out there somewhere.
yeah.
Um, I mean, that's interesting that is in that journey, and I think that's what I kind of bring back to myself as being a skeptic or what have you. Raised Mormon, went on a Mormon mission, and then found myself actually feeling like, oh wait, this is just all a business. This is a what is essentially this voice in my head. Also being the sense of like, oh, do aliens exist? Are there other things out there? And then just sort of went on that kind of journey, especially in my 20s, where I was just kind of seeing the world and meeting people. But yet, everyone I was meeting was variations of, oh, yes, we believe in some sort of, alternating experience. Or other people would be like, oh, no, aliens are absolutely not, existence. This is just human to human contact. But then people will have like a life changing experience, something like you mentioned there, out in the woods. I think it's funny that these tracks that started showing up in the 50s. I always think it's somewhere there's some guy that's probably, it's like what is it, like a little Abner sketch. Um, he probably was like cheating on his wife and, started making this big old story about, well, then those footprints and these, and then all of a sudden involved like, yeah, we got to go get out there and like hunt someone down. And of course, what are these? But yeah, it's interesting on that level, and especially as you get into it, also with the Native American origin stories, quite a bit in that area, especially Northern California. There's the Yurok people talk about being as big as trees, back in the origins of their stories, and then also these paintings, and I believe in Central California, that the show of these of hairy beings kind of thing. I think that's very fascinating kind of material that like you're like, wow, like there's something clearly that's in the storytelling of life, and as you mentioned, like Santa Claus, tooth fairies, leprechauns. There's always some sort of origin of truth, and then it becomes expanded over time or lost for various reasons.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
and I don't know. Bigfoot
Yeah.
is it's an interesting one. And in every story, and this is very similar to the Yeti, right?
hmm
Over in the Himalayas. Every
Which I have to say, people mistake Bigfoot and the Yeti as the same person or the same being, which they are not. Correct, Kai?
I mean, I've never seen. I mean, I've seen the quote unquote like skull of a yeti, but it was not
Yeah.
made of yeti. But the I mean, like tigers and lions, right?
Mhm.
Same animal, same family, different animal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, the lexicon, and this is something until I started doing Hole in the Head and we started getting movies sent to us. They were cryptid was the title. Cryptids has been used a lot to kind of encompass all these sort of creatures or these some version of I have a story or some sort of proof, yet not actually proven by science or what have you, kind of thing on that end. Were cryptids, was that term used at all when you were
not
when yeah.
Yeah, not really cryptids, but cryptozoology. I guess
hmm
cryptids is just short from that, but that's all from like these two famous writers. One was Ivan Marx, and was it wait Ivan Marx? Ivan Marx. Ivan what's his pickle? Oh, anyways, Bernard is one guy. He was a Frenchie. Uh,
hmm
what was Ivan's last name? Ivan Sanderson.
Okay.
Anderson, and he was a writer for the United States, and he'd go around and he was really into like, um, you know, unseen, monsters and stuff, and loved a good story. He did a good recording of the Flatwoods Monster in West Virginia. He went down to Florida to go find the giant penguin tracks that were hoaxed by an old guy. Or actually,
Hmm.
he wasn't probably old when he made them. But Ivan Sanderson, he wrote the Bible of Abominable Snowman books called The Abominable Snowman, I think Legend Comes to Life. I got it in my bookshelf, but it's 10 feet away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sucker's like 4 inches thick. It's maybe three, but it's a whopper. Best
Oh.
jacket ever. Yeah.
Oh man. And and I didn't mean to cut you off on the Yeti thing, but I was like sort of this interesting like lexicon that is there. Like cryptids is kind of like encompassing all that, like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman, which I thought that was the term I as a kid, you watch all the Rinkin and Bass
Oh,
movies, or you go to Disneyland and you see the Yeti on on the Matterhorn. Um but you were telling me well, what about the Yeti that you did several years back? Uh,
it was in 2001, so 25 years ago. I did a 5 week expedition following the footsteps of the 1957 Tom Slick expedition going up in the Arun Valley. So that's in the far east. And I was looking for a certain size Yeti. And then I went up to Kumjung and Namche Bazaar to go look at the famous Kumjung scalp. Uh,
mm,
and that's the big size Yeti that in that area. So I went over to check that one out. Um, and it was just to collect stories, right? To collect stories of people who had seen one. And I recorded this old mayor of a little small village, and and in Nepal, so every country that borders the Himalayas has the Yeti in their I don't want to say folklore because it's still a true thing, but
I
has
say
the
origin story. That's usually
yeah,
that's something
but
that's
just like Sasquatch to Bigfoot, and the Canadians will go and hunt it with a gun versus the Americans are just like, it should be on the endangered species list. Every country that borders the Himalayas looks at it totally differently for how they've had interactions with it, either peaceful or angry. Like uh,
hmm
the Yaren in China, how it was in Tibet, how it was in Bhutan, how they just interactions they've had throughout other countries, the Alma in Russia. So, anyways, in Nepal, where I was, it's it's like taboo. If it sees you eye to eye, it means you're gonna die. It's like not from it, but just like it's like a curse, right? But if you see it, it's okay. And so I'll never forget it. One morning, I was drinking this stuff called Mustang coffee, which is like what is it like rice whiskey with like ox milk, and I'm drinking it with the ex-mayor. It's probably 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's retelling his story by a fire, and he's telling me through an interpreter how he was hunting. It was in the middle of the morning, and he was taking a little nap because he was out in the boonies or something, and he woke up and he watched this old Yeti. It was a female. She was like saggy baggies.
hmm
Uh, and he said she looked malnutritioned and she was drinking the water that was like in like you ever seen like a boulder that has like a dip that collects water,
hmm
So,
Yeah, like
and it was drinking water out of that. And he was just like, could not stop looking, but he just knew that if it saw him, like that meant he was going to probably die. And how he's like, couldn't believe what it looked like.
hmm
And it was really interesting to hear like the description of what it was because especially in the United States, right, in the past like 10 years, if you see a picture of a Bigfoot, the dude is like ripped, right? It's
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
like
He's Jason Momoa,
right,
essentially.
right.
Yeah,
Or he's like
yeah.
the beef jerky one, right, the Slim Jim one. It's like some weird male fantasy to be like over hairy and naked running wild eating jerky. It's so weird. Right. But
Yeah.
if you go back to like the 70s, right, they all look like in the movies, they all look like Chewbacca. They're like tall and slanky and
hmm
and that's what they sort of look like when they're seen uh, out and about. They're not like totally ripped.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned like about death, like a lot of it might be, meeting eye to eye, which and everything it is certain, as they say, death and taxes in life. But I think it's interesting when you meet eye to eye, what is the sense of death being a more immediate death or a tragic death? That is, that's something that I always wonder when it's told to you, like, oh, you engage with something from the unknown or from, a certain culture. It's like, is it a sense of respect or is it, it is because we are. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kai. We're all going to die someday, right?
Yeah,
Or have many deaths happen in our lives. But I think that's interesting that connection is associated with that kind of thing on that end. I just think that's it's interesting. It's like is it a death that'll be immediate after you meet the Yeti eye to eye, or is it is it a tragic death that will be bestowed upon you shortly? Something that's interesting to think about. I always think.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that it goes in that kind of creature or being. I mean, it goes. I mean, you can go all the way to like the banshee, right? The banshee.
Hmm.
That's a similar. You hear that lady doing her wail, that means you're toast, right? Or
Oh
someone's
yeah.
toast.
Oh yeah, that'll be a great episode to talk to you about because yeah, we've talked a little bit about Cry of the Banshee when you played that the other
Yeah.
the other day. Um yeah, I think that's true. I mean, it's just it's interesting association of it. I mean, several native nations and stories, in California and are all around, the globe with indigenous stories and backgrounds. A lot of times a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, the Yeti is also considered sacred and it's not talked about in that sense either,
Yeah.
or is like it's acknowledged and because of so much other things that have happened with erasure that's why they've just kind of been like, hey. But it is interesting. Getting back to the two guys that you said you were at the bar at that bar. Clearly it brings together like all creeds, nations, ideas into experiencing something, which I think is find very fascinating.
Oh yeah.
On that, and especially in a world right now where everything is quote unquote media divisive, on that end. And I feel like that's something that's very fascinating to me is when someone experiences, like, for example, like the Travis Walton alien abduction in the 1970s is
Yeah.
something very fascinating and very close to me that I'd love to talk to you about. I don't know if you've met him or on that end, but he was Mormon. I knew people growing up that had met him as well and stuff like that. So I never met him personally, but that's a big one that I always was pretty much a staple of my life as a child growing up. And then the movie coming out when I was little and thinking that was actually when you're going to see like a man be abducted on screen or something kind of thing
Oh
in
yeah.
my, yeah. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, getting back to Bigfoot and all that. It's interesting. I was on when I was on my Mormon mission, the year that I went. I was 19 years old. One of my companions, he was from Texas. He was a Latino guy. Tex-Mex kind of association. We didn't get along great, but he always kept talking about in the Bible. He's like, in the Bible, if we're reading it, you really look at this. Cain in the Bible is Bigfoot. Like he kept convincing his like he's cursed like this. And so it was really interesting that he would say that. He never had seen Bigfoot in real life. He was from another part of, me being from California. He's like, "Oh, you're from Bigfoot country," kind of thing. Like I'm from the Bay Area. Like I've probably seen more in common with the chupacabra at this point than Bigfoot. But I found that very interesting that this origin of like what is these essentially mammal beings are associated on that end. So, um, but yeah, but you've not seen a Bigfoot in person though. You met many people. Have you thought about doing your own Bigfoot journey like what was it, Peterson and Gallen, 1967, getting the
Well,
camera. Yeah,
I
so.
don't know. Bigfoot, it seems you would have to, I mean, to me, honestly, for to really Bigfoot out, you would have to go in the boonies, right? Where you
Mhm.
would probably the danger would be all the elements, and I don't know. I'm not like a tracker. I like to camp like a few times a year, right? I'm in like a tent like 4 or 5 times a year, maybe
Mhm.
yeah, probably 5 times a year. I'd say I'm in a tent somewhere. But I think to really see it, I mean, you'd have to go out there or just get lucky.
Yeah.
You I mean, one of my favorite sighting stories I ever talked to a lady about was she had disinherited her grandmother had passed away on the Hoopa Reservation, which is near Willow Creek. And so she moved in, and it was a Monday morning, and the school bus was going around, and she went out to go get her daughter because the school bus was going to come around the corner, right? So it's like 7:50, and she goes out with her cup of coffee. She said she hadn't even had a sip of it yet. She walked out the screen door, heard it flap behind her. She walked to the left of the house, and there was her daughter. And about 6 feet away was a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot was on another side of a small fence, and it was reaching over, pulling apples out of the tree, but its hand was above, like frozen, like it got busted, right?
Hmm.
And she said she did there she was. She's like, there's this thing that my grandmother talked about that I just blew off as the boogeyman, thought she was always trying to scare me. And there it is, right? It could grab my daughter. It's stealing my apples. I need to get my daughter to school, and I haven't even had my coffee, so I'm not even awake. And then she was just trying to like soak it all in her mind, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that something like a story like that and that power of it being not something that's spooky or you're being told as a child, oh, the boogeyman's gonna come get you or the Bigfoot, if you're bad, will take you away. But then you have this moment of where you have this intersection of death, and then with this kind of moment of zen or peace or whatever you want to, call it, even in this language, English language that we use to overcomplicate things
Yeah.
sometimes. And so that's interesting because I mean that takes me into very much like the account of like, oh yeah, when these moments happen to you with the unknown or the not explained or explained to you, but then all of a sudden you meet, it's like the example of do you remember the Harry and the Terrible What's It story at all? There was a very famous child story
Vague.
um, about a child who he essentially loses his mom in the cellar, and then there's this gigantic laundry that would make all this noise, and it became like these monsters that he thought of, and then all of a sudden, as he slowly realized that. Um, that essentially as he faced the monsters and they just became a slowly and he says I'm staring you in the face kind of thing, they became a pile of clothes that that he thought of kind of thing, and you realize, and then of course he finds his mom kind of thing on that end. But I think it's sort of that nature of it is that when you finally experience something that is supposed to be either that is supernatural or defined in those ways, you've had these moments of, oh, this is what's happening. I haven't even had my coffee yet, and I'm taking this all in at
Yeah.
once, kind of thing.
I,
So
I love to debunk things, and I love to
yeah.
sleuth it out, and I love to like, Hound of the Baskerville, like really figure it out. Like what could it really be, and what, like try to say, well, what do you think you saw? What do you think you could have seen
Hmm.
in this? And I'll never forget like my first ghost experience was 17 years ago, and it wasn't what I expected it to be, and it wasn't scary. And I'll never forget, I was just sitting there watching the doorknob spin, knowing I was the only one at home, and I realized, I'm like, it took me a while to figure out, I'm like, what else could this be? Like, what else could it be? That could be turning my doorknob, at home,
Hmm.
and I know my doorknob's busted. It should be falling out of the socket, right? Uh,
Yeah, that definitely would be very. I would love to talk more about it on talking about paranormal ghost
yeah,
episode on that. I think it's also it's yeah it's one of those things as a skeptic just here for the experience or maybe that's why I don't get certain things in life. But I think it's something that's special. Something I do want to talk about. Of course, you and me talk about plenty of movies as you are programming a new show every month at Balboa Theater at Super Shangri-La, but also you have some faith in what is happening in February.
it's
Uh,
the Fear and Faith Horror
yeah.
Film Festival.
Oh yeah.
And so it is a whole bunch of weird stuff that my friend Mike Lucas wants to put out. He puts out weird movies. He did Blood Orgy of the Leather Girls. He did Go Baby Go or Go to Hell. And so he put out Return of the Great God Pan, which is kind of like a Rosemary Baby, but it's
Mm,
got a lot more weird stuff that happens, and it's
mm,
obviously got the God Pan in it.
yeah. Pan would be a great subject. I myself played a version of Puck in a theatrical production of Midsummer. Very much that is a whole history of sex and violence and love and all that stuff like that.
Yeah,
For a time. But I have to ask, what makes a good Bigfoot movie? Because in preparation, I watched Snow Beast, Exist, Willow Creek, to talk to you today.
yeah,
Um, all of them have their issues. I don't know if there's a perfect Bigfoot movie out there. Um, Willow Creek was fun for the first half, and then I just think was just kind of a Blair Witch knockoff at that point. But maybe you're a fan of Willow Creek. But if Exist is from the people who made Blair Witch or one of them, and it's more of the same movie essentially. They're the same running time. 100, they're an hour and 20 minutes each. But that one has more of like a sense of dread. And Snowpiece is just like a classic 70s TV movie.
with both
Um,
Steven and Willow Creek. Isn't Willow Creek the one that's with Bobcat?
that's the Bobcat one. Yeah. The Bobcat one, it's fun. The first half I liked more than the second half. Um,
I
where
never
they're just,
I
hmm?
never watched it. I never.
Oh. The
You,
first half is just them exploring where the places you just talked about and
yeah,
meeting people, and then slowly people are like, "Hey, don't come around here, hey," and then it kind of turns into Grizzly Man, if you know that Werner Herzog documentary.
yeah.
Um, but it has a fun little gag at the end. I thought was funny, but it's more of like the Bigfoot is in your mind, kind of thing the whole time. Like you don't actually see a creature at all. On that end. But what to you makes a good Bigfoot movie,
I
though?
For me,
Yeah.
um, well, my favorite Bigfoot, or I should say, it's a Yeti movie, is the Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Hammer flick from '57. It's got
Hmm.
Forrest Tucker. It's got Peter Cushing. It's got um, over highly developed mentally parallel beings, which are the Yeti. And people think they're just going up to go shoot like an animal, right? Like nowadays, every Bigfoot hunter just considers a Bigfoot like a hiding primate, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a similar thing where like these guys go up to go hunt like a primate, but then what they find is far mentally above and beyond what they ever imagined. Like, has psychic powers and stuff.
Hmm.
So I like that. That one's got a twist to it.
And you see the Yeti. You don't. It's not like, oh, at some point you will. It's like Jaws. You eventually see the Yeti in person,
A
or is
little
it? Yeah.
bit. You see glimpses of them.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, you see a dead one, but you don't see the face. At the end, you see what the eyes of one. It's just great. It's a great mood movie. Um, Obviously, Legend of Boggy Creek,
Oh
right?
yeah, the skunk ape, which is its own
It's its
history
own.
there. Yeah.
And I think that there was. I think that honestly, I think that all the Skunk Ape movies that came out in the '70s were
Hmm.
better than the Bigfoot movies that came out in the '50s and '60s. I mean, the it was all the Abominable Snowman was the '50s, right? Snow
Hmm.
Creature, and then it was like Bigfoot movies in the '60s and '70s, and then all of a sudden there was Swamp Ape, like the creature from Black Lake, right? I think there was like one, two, and three.
Hmm.
I think there was like a second Legend of Boggy Creek. It returns,
Hmm.
and then there was one has one of the best posters ever is Revenge of Bigfoot from
Hmm.
'79. Right now, finally, you can see parts of it, but you can't see the whole thing because rumor has it that Bill Clinton had a cameo in it because his buddy made it. And
Hmm.
so before he ran for president, they bought every copy ever seen and pulled them all so it wouldn't interfere with his election.
His election for being governor or to
Uh,
be president?
I think president, yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I mean, yeah, the history, the guys who did the first Legend of Boggy Creek made a great film, which was the inspiration for David Fincher's Zodiac, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. That was their follow-up. And
Oh,
I don't, you know that one?
no.
It's Ben Johnson. It's procedural about these real events that happened post World War II in Texarkana on the border of Texas and Arkansas, and this hooded killer just terrorized. It was like Lover's Lane boogeyman
Yeah.
that actually happened. That was like their follow-up to the legend of the first Boggy Creek. Um, Joe Bob Briggs has done an amazing like background history on that as well of that whole story. On that, so yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing is that you got to show the Bigfoot on some level. You can't just be like Bigfoot of the mind for sure. But of course, if you show too much of that, then you're gonna be like, oh, special effects, all these things. But maybe the best Bigfoot movie of them all is the that Peterson and Gallen one from 1967. It's the perfect Bigfoot movie, maybe. Up there. Yeah, there's like a song in Willow Creek. This is thing about like it says 952 frames of pure gold. So,
I can't remember
man.
one that has what's his name? Carradine.
Oh, David Carradine probably was the
Yeah,
one.
Carradine.
Okay, he faced off the Bigfoot and he
I
did
think
some kung fu moves.
I
So.
think in that one. I don't know. Is that the one that's just titled Bigfoot?
Could be. There's a lot of Bigfoot movies. They're just now it's just called Bigfoot, just for
Yeah.
I think the algorithms to catch on.
Yeah.
Lost Coast tapes. There's very you go on Tubi, you just type in Bigfoot and you just get a whole bunch of movies.
It was pretty
On
nuts.
that.
And now that I think about it, it was pretty nuts of me to do. But my second year when I was showing movies at the Balboa, I did a 3-day Bigfoot film festival. And I mean, I had like Bigfoot hunters. I flew in to talk and stuff like that. And I realized right off the bat, everyone was flying in from other states to see these guys talk and to see these movies, but there weren't a lot of people from San Francisco
Hmm.
that were into Bigfoot. They were all coming to San Francisco to see it. Yeah, I even
Yeah.
I did a second one too, like a year or two later. And I mean, it was great because I got some really amazing speakers that hadn't been to San Francisco for like 30 years. It was really cool. You have not seen The Legend of Boggy Creek or The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas with Forrest Tucker and Peter Cushing, you got to watch those two movies. Those are amazing.
Yeah. And
Uh,
any books? You recommend some literature as well for some folks.
books. Smokey Crabtree wrote a book. Smokey Crabtree is the one who first saw the Falk monster of Legend of Boggy Creek, and so Smokey Crabtree's book is great because he talks about his life hog hunting, and then this like really bothersome giant monster, that's out there. There's Lyle Blackburn recently wrote a book called Momo about the Missouri monster, which is a great sighting. And Lyle is a really good writer too. Let's see. What
Because I think that's something that you pressed on. Also, these great hoaxes, these Ringling Brothers, Barlin Bailey, P.T. Barnum characters that are in existence. That I think we could do a whole episode on just about hoaxes. That would travel around with like, oh, the great missing link. And it's just like clearly, you know, uh, a plastic skeleton wrapped in hair.
Oh yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
thing like that.
yeah.
So.
My favorite is probably the Hodag of Wisconsin. I mean, there's so many great hoaxers. Um, Yeah, but the Hodag is probably my favorite. In fact, my cocktail cup I'm drinking out of it's the Hodag from Rhinelander, which was like a green-looking lizard monster that would eat white bulldogs. I don't know if you can see
Oh
it.
yeah, the Gator Girl, Gator Girl out there. Oh yeah, I can see it. But yeah. Well, Kai, our expert here in the Get Warp world, we'll have you back more. Definitely. Let's talk some aliens. Let's talk some ghosts. Let's talk some phenomena that may
Weird
or may
stuff.
not be true. So
It doesn't matter if it's true or not. What
yeah,
matters is it's a good story.
exactly. That is true. There's a good story out there. And you're probably not harming people with it or trying to exploit them in a certain level, other than maybe paying a nickel or two.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
something because we could definitely got talk some golden plates
yeah.
sometime soon.
Uh,
So
enough. I just moved 5 golden Francis Drake plates of brass in my garage tonight. That's
oh
another story.
yeah. Well, with that, just want to sum it up, Kai. Yeah, this is the Get Warp podcast. We'll be back for a little outro, and thanks again. We'll talk soon, Kai.
Over and out. See you, Benji.
Get Warp. And there you have it. First episode down of the Get Warped podcast with me, Benji, from the Warped Visions, Warped Dimension, Warped VHS. Thanks if you got this far, for tuning in. Got some things going on, especially with our expert resident, very knowledgeable fellow, and quite a character in all good senses, and also the warp senses. That is Kai. And yeah, we'll see what we picked for next month. I think we got something here, especially talking some Bigfoot. Not just the Bigfoot, but a Bigfoot. Multiple Bigfoots. Forgot about Sasquatch Sunset. That's one I need to watch still, too. Multiple. But also, different words, different terminology. The Sasquatch, the Yeti. Different stories, different origins, different way of life, different ways of seeing. So, get out there, see the world, get warped. Get warped.